What we're going to be talking about here is, well, I'm going to try and answer the value proposition about why you should be listening to me in the first place, but some notes on the format for this show, and who you have to thank for everything that came into the show, and references to a very old video game, and some more recent examples. And ultimately, I'm trying to answer the question I get a lot, is why do IGDA exists at all, and who do we serve? So a little bit about me, and yes, my Facebook photo is flipped. That's actually the way it was supposed to be photoed. I am the chapter secretary for IGDA-Austin. It is the Austin chapter of the International Game Developers Association. I spent 10 years in newspapers. What I tell a lot of people now is that newspapers make video games look stable. My day job is I am a game master at NCSoft Austin. I ban people for a living. And this is my show. So this is the sixth one that I've been doing since 2010, and it's the fourth one I've been doing in Studio 6A. And if you didn't hear it from me, just walking through the doors, you are now part of Austin music history. This is a pretty awesome place. And again, thanks for all the help, and thanks to the audience for coming out tonight. I sure appreciate it. But there's some people I want to thank in particular who aren't here tonight. One is Bob McGoldrick at Austin Community College, who is the origin of their Game Development Institute. He also had a monthly speaker series for a while in which we'd have one speaker who would talk for maybe an hour. And that lent itself, well, it was tied to a leadership talk series by Gordon Walton, who brought in speakers such as Kevin Gliner, Paul Trow, Denise Fulton, and Craig Fryer, which I really appreciated seeing. And when he was an officer with IGDA-Austin, Cain Shin kind of had an idea for adopting a format of very short talks, which he used the term Microtalks, which was used by Richard LaMarchand, a guy that I have not met, but has been running the GDC California Microtalks for a number of years now. The format's a little bit different here. We have it up to 10 minutes as opposed to 5 minutes. But in the 2 years since we've started, a lot of other kind of programs, such as TED and O'Reilly's Ignite series, a lot of people are watching very short speeches now, so the uniqueness is kind of worn off, but we like to think we have some unique speakers with things to say to Austin. There are some rules to follow for the speakers. They don't get a lot of time to speak, so we look for people that have something relevant to say, or I do, and they want them to say with authority, which usually means that they're going to be speaking from something in their own experience, although we've had some people that have treated this as an opportunity for their own research. And again, they're only giving about 10 minutes, although there is a timekeeper. Watty, stand up. He is going to be taking the time for the evening, although there is no hook to yank you off stage. Sit down, Watty. For the audience, please pay attention, and please be respectful. Even if it doesn't really speak to you, you're only going to have to wait 10 minutes until the next speaker, and hopefully you'll get someone here that actually speaking your language. We don't have to have a Q&A afterwards. This is kind of one of the drawbacks of the format, but the speakers are here and they will be identified and they will talk to you if you are nice to them. One of the house rule that we've had in the past is just don't ask them for jobs. It's really uncouth and it makes things awkward. It's okay to network, and that means introducing yourself and telling you what you can do and what your aspirations are. That's fine. But what to expect? Again, I talk to a lot of people and I have a lot of opinions about the game industry and making video games and how people talk about it, or rather they don't talk about it. The people that I brought here to stage, a lot of them are people I already know, although some of them are people that I would like to meet as an opportunity, so I use this as an excuse to reach out to them. But generally, it's also, a lot of them are game developers, and game developers are busy people, so sometimes, they may not be able to make it on their busy schedule. But what I've never really focused on is having a theme for each of these shows, because I don't really think it's feasible, given, it's basically whoever's available and has something to say. And it's not like a magazine where you can have it all done in advance. These people have to be here and be speaking. So, but as it turns out, and just with the lineup we got this time, it actually is the least about nuts and bolts game development of any show I've done thus far. And in a way, that almost approaches the theme. So I actually started thinking about this, and I was like, well, what is the theme? And I came up with diligence. Diligence is a term with a lot of synonyms depending on its connotation. It has both secular and sacred term meaning. In Catholic Catechism, it is one of the 7 heavenly virtues, defined as industria in Latin by the poet Prudentius. It is the opposite of sloth among the 7 deadly virtues. In Buddhism, it is also a virtue, and supposedly the last words of the Buddha were strive on with diligence, among many other translations of the term. He wasn't speaking English. The term that is translated into diligence actually has its root word as virya, which I understand actually means the state of a strong man, which means it could be interpreted as manliness. That's what we're talking about tonight. If you live in America, though, a lot of times you hear the word diligence paired with the word due, because the U.S. Securities Act of 1933 defined due diligence as what a reasonable person would do before entering into a contract with someone else. And it usually means an audit. So the definition we're going to be using tonight is care and conscientiousness in work and duty and attention to detail. But I thought, we can do better than that. And so I reached back in my brain and came up with Ultima 6, the false prophet. A little close to home, made in 1990 by some folks, you might recognize their names. And I don't want to hear any crap about getting spoilers from a 22-year-old video game. If you're not familiar with the Ultima series, it is the 3rd in the 2nd trilogy of games featuring the player character. And then this one is defined as the Avatar. In Ultima 4, you're basically charged with becoming the moral standard for a new nation, Britannia, and learning a bunch of color-coded virtues that define what is good about the world. And in Ultima 5, you learn all about how the whole thing can go to hell when the wrong people are in charge, and can turn the virtues into hard and fast laws. And it's hard to be the good guy when the whole world is against you. The Avatar becomes the outlaw. And then we move into Ultima 6, and turns out you might not be the good guy after all. It turns out there's a monstrous race of gargoyles that want you dead. And you can approach the game. They've taken over the virtue shrines, so you can kind of act like a interdimensional Orcan man and just exterminate them. But as it turns out, it's a lot more interesting and rewarding to find out why they think you're so wrong. And it turns out that they have a completely different value system that parallels your own, but is completely different. And so the Avatar learns pluralism, which is an interesting thing for a video game to be teaching. But late in the game, you are introduced to the principles of the gargoyle virtue system. And it turns out that their examples are the first 3 bosses from the first 3 Ultima games. And the 3rd one is diligence. And the example for that is Exodus. And so you get all the way through the dungeon. Well, it's not a dungeon, it's the Shrine of Diligence. And you're talking to the statue of Exodus, and he says, "Fear not, Avatar. I have one task now, and I'm no threat." Well, gee, thanks. I just had to kill a butt ton of demons just to get to you, so thanks. You're not going to fight me now. But he talks about the gargoyles, and he says, "The gargoyles have enshrined my spirit here as their embodiments of diligence." So he's kind of like a singing bass trophy, but he's talking about the life, the universe, and everything. You do a lot of talking to inanimate objects that are alive somehow and can talk to you. It's a great, one-way dialogue, and then the player doesn't have to have a whole lot of words in their mouth. But anyway, he said, "I was once a powerful demon, and diligence was the essence of my soul, cold, unswerving diligence in the path of conquest." And if you actually finished Ultima 3, you get all the way to the end thinking that the awesome box art that Dennis LeBay drew of the badass demon was somehow going to be in the game, and it was going to look so awesome on your Apple II. But and you get all the way to the end, and it's 4 slots in a wall. And you have to put cards in the right order. And, but later in the series, it was defined that, Exodus was like a hard drive, and you had to turn it off. Yeah, Ultima was weird. In any case, diligence without a goal is as worthless as goal without diligence. It goes together. And that means the means cannot replace the end, and diligence cannot be the goal. So that almost sounds like a point, but I'm going to pause on that point to get onto something else, which is like the Valve employee manual, which got leaked last week, and a lot of developer friends of mine reacted pretty strongly to it, pretty positively. generally about the idea of, wouldn't it be nice to work at a place with a flat management structure, completely self-directed management, all the, whatever project you work on, you choose. All the desks are on wheels. You just unplug yourself from one wall and plug yourself somewhere else where you want to work. And you might ask, well, why doesn't the rest of the game industry work in that? Well, the manual itself actually addresses this on page 50. And they talk about, well, it's really hard. And mainly because from day one, it requires a commitment to hiring in a way that's very different from the way most companies hire. And it also uses terms like discipline and vigilance. And in my mind, they could just as easily have used the word diligence. They just didn't. So maybe it's worth saying that maybe Valve, maybe their idea of what their desires and goals aren't that much different from what the rest of the game industry wants. But maybe their diligence is different. And that's what makes them different. So maybe I'm saying that goals and diligence are both necessary for success. And maybe I'm saying that you can accept that not everything is up to you as a professional, but that doesn't mean that in pursuit of your goals, you don't leave the diligence up to someone else. That's starting to sound like a point. Maybe it's profound even. So we'll go back to Ultima 6. And the Avatar is still talking to the statue 22 years later and trying to find out stuff, and Exodus is talking about the gargoyles and blah, blah. In this way, the gargoyles have the diligent leading the wayward, and the wayward are basically the gargoyles without wings. They're little children, and they have to be led, kind of like Loki in the Avengers movie. No one likes to be told they're made to be led, especially professionals with their own idea of what's good and what's bad. And in this is the way the gargoyles work. So, like every other time that the Avatar learns a new profound truth, he is given a mantra to meditate on and learn something from it. So, Exodus gives him the mantra. And you might ask yourselves at this point, what am I saying this for? Who am I doing this show for? What is this about? And the mantra is us. Us. Let's say it together. The mantra of diligence. Us. 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 Prepare for enlightenment. This is Microtalks. Thank you.